Hello, Namaskar viewers. I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to this week's episode of the Business Talk with AJ right here on ITV Gold. The show is brought to you by Sai CPS Services, a professional full-fledged accounting firm located in the state of New Jersey with multiple locations, and they can assist you in any tax matter, personal or corporate tax matter, even IRS tax audit, or even if you need a virtual CEO, CFO, they can help you with that one. They can help you with your company, payroll and bookkeeping services as well. So that's what the services they offer, Science CPA Services. And anywhere you are in the state, they can be reached at 908-380-6876 or visit their website sciencecpaservices.com. The show is Business Talk, and every week we talk about a certain business, and AJ gives us insight of the business. AJ gives us the full knowledge of the business, what the business is all about, what do you need to start a business, how do you operate the business, how do you manage the business, what are the challenges of the business, and most importantly, which happens, what are the reasons of the downfall of that business? So these are the topics that we discuss every week in the Business Talk with AJ. And first of all, let me welcome AJ to the show. Sir, good to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. Thank you for the kind introduction.
Very, very welcome. As I mentioned, that we talk about, businesses, different businesses every week. And these are the businesses, they are handpicked, they are studied, and they are reviewed and researched, because these are the businesses where mostly South Asians are engaged into it. So it's a very relevant, for you viewers to know about these businesses. And if you are an owner of one of the businesses or multiple businesses, this will definitely help you. The show will help you. As I understand, this week we're going to talk about a very, very, very much talked about, very much in demand, the category of business. It's kind of new. It's only, it's in the diapers because it's about 2 years old, 3 years old, right? But business is catching up. You see this kind of shops, mostly everywhere. And obviously you can't neglect the fact that business is, gives you very handsome profit.
Absolutely. It's a relatively new business. When we talk about the cannabis business, the smoke shop, hemp, kratom, all these terms were not heard of. They were not as commonly, or they were a taboo. There were rules around it. Now, recently, the state government, the federal government came around. They made, in some cases, something legal. Now you will see a lot of smoke shops are opening everywhere. In last 2 years, a lot of smoke shops have opened. So this week we'll be talking about the smoke shop, cannabis business in general, hemp, kratom. What are the tax implications? How do you go about starting the business? What is the business all about? What you should be concerned about? Where do you find the funding, and how do you keep this type of business compliant when it comes to the state and federal filings?
Interesting. Smoke shop that we see everywhere, and the way these smoke shops are designed, they have this LED lights outside the store, inside the store. So it's
attractive.
Hardly you can ignore it, right? And obviously it prompts you to go in there. But anyway, let's go into the detail. Let's start going into the detail and talk about. It's mentioned smoke shop, vape shop, right? Cannabis and everything. Everything is sold over there. So these are the popular categories: smoke shop, cannabis, and then hemp and kratom, which is all these new things slowly coming up. So how one can start this business? Let's start with scratch.
Absolutely. So the easiest way to start this business is to have a smoke shop where you have not, you don't have to worry about the manufacturing. You don't have to worry about how do you do the wholesaling. You just open a shop like anything else. You have suppliers.
But do you need to have a license? Do you need to have a permission from the state?
You do and you do not.
Oh.
In the sense, getting a cigarette license or tobacco license from the state, at least for the time being, is a breeze. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
You can get these licenses in as early as 4 weeks. And how much does it cost? Nothing.
Oh, I see.
So getting the cigarette license, tobacco, and it depends on the state. All these licenses are state governed licenses. But in most cases, getting these licenses right now is not a big deal. You can easily get these licenses, have the business started. When we talk about the business, a lot of these businesses are LLC. please don't go with a proprietorship, and try to avoid any liability around it. It's a new area, new field. You don't really know how people are using your product, and if they are misusing it and they hurt themselves, and then now they want to come back to you. They want to come behind you. So try to go with an LLC. A typical retail store can be opened in as low as $30,000 to as much as $100,000, depending on what product line you want to keep. You can have the e-cigarette, you can have vapes, you have hookah over there, you have tobacco, you have hemp, you have lot of products, even various versions of cannabis. How much CBD you have over there, how much tetrahydro cannabinol you have over there. This term you will see a lot of THC, tetrahydro cannabinol. Percentage of tetrahydro cannabinol, THC, decide how potent the product is. If you want to draw a parallel example, when you talk about wine, whiskey, vodka, you say how much is the alcohol percentage over there? And you say, well, wine has only 10%, beer has 5%. Now it's telling you whiskey has 40% of alcohol, so whiskey is hard liquor, more potent. Take the same example when we talk about THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, or sometimes referred as CBD. The percentage of the CBD product will decide how potent the product is. So hemp was made legal in 2018. The hemp is a form of THC where the THC content has to be less than 0.3%. It's for general use. It makes you feel slightly high. It's not used for medical purpose. Hemp is sort of bhang that you compare it in India. So the THC product has to be 0.3% or less in hemp. Then there are several other versions of cannabis where the product can be used for medical purpose, for pain relieving, for getting high, where the THC could be more than 0.3%. Then we talk about kratom. Kratom is a new variation. So, for example, vodka is more popular in Russia, tequila is more popular in Mexico. If you take a similar example, they are both alcohol. They both sort of quote unquote serve the same purpose, come from two different regions, two different countries, have two different names. Take the same example to cannabis, hemp, and kratom. Kratom is a new product, similar concept, makes you high depending on how potent it is, how much percentage CBD you have in there. It can be pain relieving, it can be used for medicinal purpose. But as many states as we see in US that has laws around CBD, cannabis, very few states, Sanjeevji, have laws about kratom.
Yep.
Right now, only 7 states talks about kratom when it comes to cannabis in general. 43 states don't talk about kratom at all. So it creates a situation when these products, kratom related products in this example, are more of a gray area product. It also depends. So let's say government made a rule that you have to have 0.3% THC to make it hemp. If it's more than 0.3%, then it's not hemp, then it has to be approved. It can be used for medical purpose. But depending on who is manufacturing it, depending on if they are following the right rules or not, for a retailer, deciding if it's 0.3% or more is very difficult. Meaning the industry is so new. As recently as November 2022, the use of marijuana, medical use of marijuana was made legal. So the industry by itself is so new that a lot of regulations are not there when it comes to growing, manufacturing, retailing. A lot of these rules are still coming up. So we expect the industry to grow like anything else. First movers advantage is there. Profits are very high. The risk is there because a lot of these things are not regulated yet. We expect more regulation to come. Some people will get hurt. Some people will have the lawsuit. Some new rules will be made. Some people will be pushed out of business. Some people will end up making a lot of money. Like any new industry that you expect. So today's topic is all about cannabis, hemp, kratom, whatever you want to call it.
Man, I think, maybe perhaps the first time I've seen you talk about these products non-stop from the beginning of the show till now. I don't know whether you're too much into this business, these products,
Well, you're
or
right.
you have studied them so much.
You are right. We have, and it's a real example. Somebody asked me, "Are you an expert in cannabis?" I said, "There is nobody expert in cannabis. The whole industry is as new as 2 years. In last 2 years, we probably opened 30 plus smoke shops. We have a lot of cannabis manufacturing clients. We have all sorts of clients. But calling an expert for an industry that is only 2 years old is funny."
Exactly. Now, smoke shops. Smoke shops are a very important part of tobacco industry, and the tobacco industry, which is a global enterprise. So the cultivation, the preparation, distribution, and sale of these tobacco products through smoke shops, they bring in a significant revenue, not for the business owner, but for the state also.
Of course.
And that's why states have approved it, because states always need additional funds. Now, some of the products that you mentioned, smoke shops, cannabis and vertum and hemp and everything, this is not it. There's going to be more products coming your way.
I'm sure.
And then when you go into the shop, you're going to see plants. These are the plants
Yep.
that you buy them, right? And perhaps you can also grow them in your backyard and then continue to grow them and use them whatever you can. There are various ways of doing it. Obviously, AJ and I are not experienced when it comes to the using part of it, but having seen some of our friends in a community excelling so much in this business in a very short time, this is the information that we have gathered from them. But now look at this way, this is no end, because more products are going to come into it, and the teenagers are going to get hooked onto it. One of the things I have noticed, AJ, is that ever since this came into effect following legalizing of marijuana, you see more and more kind of crazy drivers on the road.
Well, it's always like that. Anything new, people want to try, and not knowing any better, sometimes they'll get into trouble. But since we are talking about the smoke shop first, there are rules around not having the smoke shop near the school.
Correct. That's always going to be there,
Right.
because around school and hospitals and stuff like that. So now wherever the shops are going to be, you see more and more people buying it, and then you see their behavior, either at work, at socializing events, and even on the road. With that note, we're going to take a short break. When we come back after this messages, we're going to give you more information on these smoke shops, the topic of the day, and the business talk with AJ. Welcome back to the second half of today's business talk with AJ. Today's topic is smoke shops. Yes, smoke shops. Not that we are encouraging you to get into it, but we're talking about business. What business makes sense, how businesses make money, and this is the new category, relatively new couple of years, and it's really catching up everyone's attention. Not a heavy investment, maybe $50,000 to $100,000. You can open smoke shops and you can have varieties of the products, which we discussed in the first half of the show. Now let's go more into the detail of these smoke shops. Of course, the licensing is required, and as you heard from AJ before the break, you can open a smoke shop near a school or perhaps around hospitals. So there are certain rules and regulations, or in the mall, just like a tobacco store that you don't see it everywhere, right? So that's a very basic guidelines. But now let's go more into the details. One license required or multiple license required. How does that work?
Well, when it comes to these cannabis products, all about THC, these are governed by the state. There are not a lot of rules around THC products, CBD products when it comes to the federal government. So the rules are governed by the state. Each state has their different set of rules. Say, for example, the state of New Jersey requires a separate cigarette license, separate tobacco license, separate vape license. Just because the rules are so new, this whole industry is so new, as the new situation came around, the state came up with a new license around it. So sooner or later, all these things will get standardized, but right now you have a different license required for almost everything new. cigarette, tobacco, vape, everything has a different license requirement.
Now, if there's a different license requirement for that many products, let's talk about the financial angle, financial difficulties.
Well, I'm glad you asked. So just because the industry is so new, a lot of institutional investors, banks, bigger finance institutions, they don't consider it as an investable industry. Banks do not want to give loan to a smoke shop or a cannabis industry because cannabis product by definition were a taboo, they had a negative connotation around it. Banks did not want to get into it. So a lot of these banks, even though some of these banks are the smaller banks, are coming in the market and supporting these shops based on your credit score.
I was going to say that the banks will come around when they see money coming in. They
100%,
will come around.
I have no doubt. But just because the industry is so new, a lot of larger banks, a lot of financial institutions are not funding. So when you talk about cannabis industry in general, kratom industry in general, smoke shops and not, you don't really have a lot of same financing options that you expect for a retail shop.
All right, so that's a financing, a detail into that one. Now, what about increased competition? When the business is good and business gives you this much of handsome profit, of course, every Joe Schmo want to open it up, so there's a competition.
Absolutely, and there are few areas. So there are few affluent areas. There are few areas where you will see more smoke shops, or smoke shops are in a hub as opposed to everywhere else. So like anything else, once people find out, oh, this guy is making tons of money driving a Ferrari, and what he does, he has a smoke shop, he's in cannabis industry, he's selling kratom. Well, everybody wants to do it, everybody wants to copy. So we do expect a lot of competition. Some of these businesses will be closed, some of these businesses will be more successful than not. But in the coming months, in the coming year, we'll expect some more competition around it.
All right, so that's good. Now, we talked about the licensing and then financial difficulties and competition. Now let's touch upon another very, very important issue when it comes to the smoke shops. Tobacco filing, the tax filing or any reports filing required by the state.
Absolutely, I'm glad you reminded me. So let's say income tax is filed once a year. Sales tax can be filed once a quarter, depending on how much sales tax you are collecting. But since this licensing is so new, government wants the tobacco license to be filed every month, especially New Jersey. Again, all these licensing are state governed, but just because the licensing is so new, the state is still trying to find the right balance around it. So a lot of these filings, when we talk about tobacco, cigarette, cannabis in general, are monthly required filing as opposed to quarterly filings.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, as we're giving you in-depth knowledge of this smoke shop, right? We'll continue to talk about, after covering this issue, now let's go into, obviously we talked about in a way regulatory landscape, meaning, where you can open it, where you cannot open it, you have to follow state guidelines and everything. And then we also talked about market evaluation and everything. Now, here's one important topic when it comes to this kind of business, and that's the legal crackdown.
Well, like anything else, just because it's a new industry, the manufacturing is not as controlled. There are not a lot of rules about manufacturing. There are not a lot of rules about distribution. There are not a lot of rules about who you can sell. I mean, when you go to buy alcohol, you have to show some ID. When you're buying tobacco, nobody is checking your ID. Just because those rules, those regulations have not been
Oh no,
pushed.
when you go to buy tobacco, they check your ID.
They do. They're supposed
Under
to.
18 cannot. Yes.
They're supposed to.
Yeah, they're supposed
but a lot of these tobacco shops, like anything else, are just working under radar.
I know. They're taking chances, and many of them have been fined.
That's the point. Just because these rules are not applied yet, not enforced yet, a lot of gray area dealings are done in this industry, being the new industry, not having proper rules. As we were discussing earlier, kratom is very similar to CBD. Only 7 states talk about kratom when they talk about cannabis. 43 states have no rules around it. Out of 7 states that have rules around it, only 2 states make it illegal. So how about the remaining 43 states? Is it legal over there or is it illegal over there? Soon enough, as soon as people start manufacturing it, distributing it, using it, there will be new rules coming around it.
Okay, all right, so we're continuing now. We talked about in a low initial cost, the startup. We talked about that. We talked about location, general idea, because obviously it's a very self-explanatory that
Absolutely.
this kind of business will have some restrictions when it comes to locations, because you cannot have it everywhere else, right? And then retailer diversity control, that is issue also
Absolutely.
up there. Now with this many products, obviously there are going to be many suppliers. Many suppliers are going to be coming to the store. Different products are going to come in. You're going to have a variety of the products in a one store. They're all from different manufacturers. So obviously you have to stay above the competition and make sure that your business works out very well no matter where you are. Now let's talk about negative competition.
Absolutely. So when we talk about competition, we are talking about the external competition from other people doing the same thing. Negative competition here means the industry itself. There is a negative connotation around selling tobacco, using tobacco. Even the word tobacco, hemp, is seen as negative word. So when we talk about these taboos, that what does your son do? Oh, he sells hemp, he sells cannabis. Okay, what's wrong with him? So that's negativity around it. It's a very good business, great margins, at least for the time being, until we see the real competition. But there is still within the industry there is a negativity around it, and that's what we refer as negative competition.
Obviously, this kind of business will have some negative implications on it.
Right.
Okay, now, there cannot be a business that we talked about in our show and we do not touch upon the tax issue for that business. So let's talk about, taxes, what kind of, tax return to be filed, and the tax planning for this kind of business.
No, absolutely. So please, when you are starting a new cannabis type of business, keep it as an LLC. Try avoiding the proprietorship. The business is too new. A lot of people are not following the right rules, the guidelines, the regulations. So the risk is very high. Having an LLC will protect you to a certain extent. If you can have a holding company, have the LLC owned, that will be better than you yourself owning the LLC. Make sure you understand the rule. It's not about sales and use tax only. Tobacco tax, cigarette tax, there are a lot of taxes that needs to be paid monthly as opposed to the sales tax that can be paid quarterly. Then make sure you understand the income tax side of it. If some of these businesses are not legalized yet, if you are in a business of manufacturing a cannabis type of product that's not legalized in your state, please remember the SG&A expense can be denied in your case. So you have the revenue minus cost of goods sold. That's what is allowed. So make sure you understand the tax complications, tax consequences, and keep your business compliant with both IRS and the state.
All right. So now, does that cover tax calculation as well, or?
Absolutely. So the taxes, as it's a new industry, higher margin, the tax rates are slightly higher in this new market than what you expect in a normal market.
All right. So as we're continuing the tax implications in this kind of business, let's have a last word, AJ, from you about any tax-related matter.
Absolutely, Sanjeevji. Thank you. So, like any other business, it's a new industry. Make sure you understand the industry. Make sure you understand what you're signing up for. A retail store is different. Now you are in cannabis industry. So understand the implications, understand the compliance that you need, understand if it's monthly, quarterly. Sales tax is due 20th of the month, but cannabis reporting is due 10th of the month. So make sure you understand the reporting requirements, the compliance requirement, the income tax requirement, and plan properly when it comes to starting a new industry.
Okay, that's very interesting. I have a question. After covering this tax matter, what about insurance? Do they really need to have a certain kind of insurance?
I'm glad you asked. Absolutely, 100%. If you have the payroll, you will need the workers' comp insurance, you will need the general liability insurance, you will need, like anything else, you should have all necessary insurance, especially in this business than any other business, because you are signing up for something new that you are still learning about the business.
All right. In the end, I just want to say one thing is that, we, meaning people, usually talk about, higher gas prices, high price for the grocery, milk is expensive, but no one talks about cigarettes being expensive. No one talks about the
100%.
smoke shops products
You're right.
are expensive. So people have their own thing, their own perception that they only want to talk about the things that are expensive in daily needs, but what really is hobby for them, what really satisfies their
100%.
urge, right? What gives them a high, what puts them into the different world, right? And also put others in a danger also around you. They don't talk about no matter how
100%.
expensive that is.
The gross margin on a milk is 10%, 12%. The gross margin on hemp, on CBD product is 300%.
So that's why I want to
And
say
nobody's talking about
the
it.
time is changing very rapidly. And with that note, we're rushing to wrap up this show because we're just running out of time. AJ, thank you so very much
Absolutely,
for
thank
your,
you.
and once again, check out this show and let others know also to check this episode out for Smoke Shops and the Business Talk with AJ on ITV Gold. I am Sanjeev Pandya, wishing you all happy and smoke-free days ahead. Take care of yourself.